Now, let's make sure that we are speaking clearly in this thing, because,
Well, you gotta lower it for me.
yep, we gotta lower it a little bit for you.
Okay, that's good. Okay. So I was kind of waiting till the end, hoping maybe we'd run out of time, I guess. So probably should tell you all that if you don't know this, I was raised in a Christian home. I was blessed to have two amazing parents who loved God and served in the church. So that's all I knew was church growing up. And so I was saved at a very young age. Did the typical kind of teenager thing where, I got into some friends and drinking and never drugs or anything like that, but just kind of, going along with what my friends do. And one of them was a pastor's daughter, so. But anyway, she ended up marrying a pastor, which is the funny part. But so anyway, as I got older, I got married and at a pretty young age, and I don't know if he was saved, to be honest with you. I don't know. I wanted to believe that he was, but the evidences weren't there. So we were married for, I think, about 25 years, and a lot of you know that was a very difficult marriage. Sometimes are worse than others, but walked through some different challenges through that. I don't know if many of you know, I've talked about it before, but my daughter was diagnosed with cancer when she was like 6 years old. So that was a hard time, and all those things, just living with an abusive spouse and having a daughter who's sick, those things actually, I just held on to my faith even firmer, and luckily I had a good support system in my churches. So I was always dragging my kids to church. I make jokes about that, but they were drugged to church every Sunday. And this is harder than you think.
It is harder.
So anyway, being divorced was not in my plan, but God, in His great mercy, blessed me in that. And we were talking about Paul this morning and how he felt abandoned, and I felt like that when I went through my divorce. I think that's a hard thing for the church to swallow, especially the church I was involved in, and I really felt abandoned. I felt alone. I didn't have that support. I had some other things going on that were really, really hard. And so I went through probably, maybe almost a year where I felt very alone. I had convinced myself that I was alone, although in reality my mom and dad were huge supporters of me, but my circle got very small, very small. And that was necessary. We talked about that this morning, that God knew that was necessary because He knows my heart. He knows I'm going to rely on people to fill this void in me that only He can fill. And He wanted to show me that I just needed Him alone. And I shared this in ladies group several months ago when we were giving testimonies, but it was a spring day. I want to say it was probably in April. I was living in my house and I was doing okay, trying to stand on my own. And I was weeding this little flower bed. And if any of you know, I don't do good with flowers or anything that is supposed to be green and living. I kill things, not intentionally, but I was, planning to plant some flowers in this flower bed. And I was sitting out there and I was so, like when Neil shared, when you get in these dark places and you're just so in despair, like we read about Paul being in despair. And even as Christians, we experience great despair in our lives. And I was pulling out these weeds, and I just was having this conversation with God. And my house I was kind of on a main street, so probably everybody that passed by me thought I was probably mentally insane because I was talking to myself and crying hysterically as I pulled out these weeds. And I was like, God, it looks so empty. And it just was like this picture of my life. It just looked so empty. And I felt him speak to me and say, yeah, it is. And it needs to be right now. It just needs to be empty for right now. But I'm going to fill it up with beauty. And he just gave me this picture in my head of this field filled with flowers of all different colors. And it was beautiful. It was the hope I needed. I was so hopeless. And so he just gave me that hope that he was going to plant something beautiful. But in the meantime, I needed to fall deeply in love with God and just rely on him, and that he would, make beauty from those ashes. And he does. He truly does. And so it didn't happen immediately. I had to wait, which is not something that I like to do, but I had to wait and be patient. But God used those things, and he's used all those things, all those experiences I've had to give me heart that loves people who have experienced brokenness in their lives. And he's made me and given me the ability and the opportunity to try to minister to people through ministry. So I thank him for that. And I thank God for all of you and what a blessing you are to me. So I'll take one of these.
Oh man, thank you, sweetheart. It's a little low now.